imagined what your life would be like if you were a superhero? I know I have. Think of all the great powers that superheroes have. There's the incredible power of flight, there's strength, there's invisibility, and there's one of my favorite, which is the ability to be able to breathe underwater, like Aquaman. Now, while it's not realistic for us to be superheroes, we can all be heroes or heroines of our own lives, if we choose to be. And today I'm going to tell you why you should heed the call to adventure and choose to view your life as a heroine's quest and yourself as a heroine. Now, being a heroine is not like being a superhero because you don't have those superpowers, but you do have powers, and there are many advantages to those powers, and I'm going to tell you about what some of those are today. Now, originally, this is an example of a heroine, obviously. Originally, a hero or a heroine was defined as a person or main character of a literary work who, in the face of danger, combats adversity through impressive feats of ingenuity, bravery, or strength, often sacrificing his or her own personal concerns for some greater good. Now, while most of us are not literary works ourselves, we are writing our own stories. So in that vein, why not choose to cast yourself as the hero or heroine of your own story? I did choose to do this in my semi-autobiographical work, The Adventures of Isabel, the Embryo Goddess and the Morpho. And it's a series, and this is the first book in the series. And here you can see my heroine. This is Princess Isabel of Ixmica. She's in the forest hunting with her trusty hound. Now, in 1949, Joseph Campbell introduced the concept of the monomyth, or the hero's journey, in his book, The Hero with a Thousand Faces. And Dr. Campbell said, "A hero ventures forth from the world of common day into a region of supernatural wonder. Fabulous forces are there encountered, a decisive victory won. The hero comes back from this mysterious adventure with the power to bestow boons on his fellow man." Now, Campbell described the hero's journey, or the monomyth, as a narrative with a common arc. And that's one of the reasons why it's a mystery. It appears across all times and cultures, okay? So he described the lives of Moses, Christ, and Buddha in terms of the hero's quest, or this monomyth journey. But those are not the only stories that follow this. If you think in modern times of Star Wars, The Wizard of Oz, the tales of King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table, and even our own lives, all of these stories follow this arc of the hero's quest, or the monomyth. So here is an illustration of the hero's journey that I'm going to be discussing today. Now, there are some, such as Maureen Murdoch, who's the author of The Heroine's Journey, A Woman's Quest for Wholeness, who've argued that Joseph Campbell's model leaves women out entirely. Okay, so what they've done in response is create their own models. Now, I don't necessarily agree with this dichotomy between the hero's journey and the heroine's journey. What I encourage you to do is to study all of these models and take from them what you find most useful in your own life. So what I'm going to be talking about today is the model that follows 3 acts, like a play. Okay? The first act is the departure, the second, the initiation, and the third, the return. And as you can see, I'm only going to choose to focus on a few of these stages because these are the stages that I've found most helpful when dealing, or rather working with my success coaching clients, my therapy clients, as well as in my own life. Now, the number and the names of the stages of the heroine's quest vary from author to author, model to model, but these are the ones that I'm going to focus on today. So the first stage is the call to adventure. Okay, this is when the hero or heroine ventures forth from their regular, mundane, safe life out into the magical world. Okay, the hero begins in a situation of normality from which information is received that acts as a call to head out into the unknown. This is my princess, Isabel, and this actually occurs at the end of book 1. A tragedy necessitates her leaving the safety of the palace to go off on her next adventure into the unknown, which happens to take place on the high seas. Now, in real life, there are many different things that can necessitate this call to adventure. Okay? It can be an inner yearning for greatness, or it can be an external factor like the loss of a job or a loved one that dramatically changes your life and propels you out into this unknown world where at the end you will become a hero or heroine. Now sometimes the second stage is the refusal of the call, okay? So this is when you have a reluctant hero or heroine who tries to resist, who doesn't want to go out for reasons of obligation, fear of inadequacy, or a whole host of reasons. Also just sometimes it's scary, they want to stay where they are in the safety. Here we have an example of a reluctant hero in Han Solo in, obviously, Star Wars. And you're all laughing because you probably remember how comical he and Chewbacca can be. Now, in real life, what I find often keeps people in that safe place is their fear, but it's their fear of greatness, actually, that keeps them in that wanting to be in a world that's small and safe. But I encourage you not to do that, to go out there and heed the call. Once you've committed to the adventure and you've stepped out, you encounter supernatural aid, okay? Or helpers that will help you along the way. I have some examples here. Of course, you all remember Glinda in The Wizard of Oz. She's definitely an example of a helper. And over here is a character in The Adventures of Isabelle, a mysterious woman who comes before the princess's birth and brings this magical box. Now, I'm lucky because in my own life, I get to play that role with people. As a success coach and a psychologist, I get to be the supernatural aid and helper that help people along their way. Now, it's very common for the helpers to present the hero or heroine with certain talismans or artifacts that they will later use in their journey. Now, while I don't usually present my clients with actual talismans or artifacts, what I do is I supply them with tools and ways of thinking that can help them along on their quest. Next comes crossing the threshold, okay? So when you cross the threshold, this is actually sort of the point between your mundane life and the new life, where you're entering the new realm, where you're leaving the known limits, the world that you've known, and you're setting out into a world with unknown rules and limits. Now, how do you know when you're crossing the threshold? Well, the air changes. There's something that you experience. This is a lot of times when these supernatural aids and helpers appear out of nowhere. A lot of synchronicity occurs. That's how you know that you're on the right path on the heroine's quest. Here we have a perfect example of crossing the threshold in Star Wars when Luke is in the cantina. Do you all remember the cantina scene in Star Wars? Okay. All those strange creatures are a big clue that he's crossing the threshold. So once he's done that, or once the heroine has done that, they enter the road of trials. And this is represented by this very scary dragon, okay? The road of trials is where you encounter trials and tests along the way. Oftentimes they come in threes. Oftentimes the hero or heroine does not pass all of these tests. It wouldn't really be a great story if you passed all the tests right away, okay? Now, one of the examples in real life, or some of the examples in real life of these tests can be actual academic tests. They can be financial troubles, they can be health troubles. Any sort of trial or tribulation that you have is what you encounter on the road of trials, okay? Now what happens sometimes in real life, people become defeated when they encounter these trials. They might become defeated, demoralized, they feel depressed. But that's because they're not recognizing the fact that they're a hero or heroine that's embarked on the quest. So what I do that I find very helpful with my success coaching clients is get them to view these trials as merely dragons that must be slayed. They're really clues that you are in fact on the hero's quest. If you're not experiencing trials, then you're not on the heroine's quest. So next comes one of my favorite scenes, slaying the dragon. Okay? So this is the ordeal. This is the big dramatic moment that you can think about in all of the stories and myths that you've read and seen, where the hero or heroine has to do battle with the big, scary thing. Okay? Now, I represent that as a dragon, but that could be anything, right? That could be a test, that could be passing school. The ordeal is the critical moment in every story and a major source of magic in a heroic myth. Now, according to author Christopher Vogler, the hero stands in the deepest chamber of the inmost cave and faces a direct confrontation with her greatest fear. No matter what the hero came for, it's death that now stares back at her. She is brought to the brink of death in a battle with a hostile force. And that might sound dramatic, but that's actually how it is, right? And even though in real life we're not actually usually facing real death, we are experiencing a death of sorts. Sometimes it's the death of an ego. Sometimes it's the death of an old way of life or an old way of thinking, okay? Whatever your greatest fear is, that is what you have to conquer in order to pass the ordeal and to move on through your quest. But the good news is that once you do, you attain the ultimate boon or the reward. Okay? So the ultimate boon is the achievement of the goal of the quest. It is what the person went on the journey to get. It's the holy grail, it's the elixir, it's the magic plant. Okay? Now in real life, this is not usually a holy grail or an elixir. It can be your vision of success. Okay? To me, what your vision of success is the thing that you're most passionate about and that you most want to do in the world. Okay? When you achieve that, you've attained the boon. Now, the boon can also be love. It can be self-love. It can be mastery. It's whatever the prize is that you attain once you pass the ordeal. So after this wonderful moment when you attain the boon, you have to now bring this back to your people. So we're in the third act, which is the return. Okay? So you have to return with the elixir and with the boon, because the whole point of this journey is not for yourself. It's to come back and bring what you've acquired, what you've won, your vision of success. It's to bring it back and to share it with other people. That's really the only way that it counts. So the challenge in returning is to retain the wisdom that you gained. So there's no point in going on this quest if you don't learn what you need to learn from passing the ordeal and passing those lessons. And when you do, and you've won the ordeal, you've slayed the dragon, you have a story to share and you can bring that back. And that's actually one of the forms that the elixir takes. Now, in myth, the elixir can be an actual elixir again, it can be a plant, think about the Holy Grail. But in life, the elixir is the knowledge that you have. It's the wisdom that you gain. It's the story that you have to tell once you return from this ordeal. Now, love is a very popular elixir in both myth and in real life, and it's a very powerful elixir. The love that I'm talking about is the self-love, but it's also the love and the passion that you feel for your vision of success. And when you're living your vision of success, you're exuding that love, you're sharing that love with people. When you're telling your story of victory over whatever your ordeals were, you're actually enlightening and giving power to other people who are on the journey with you. So as you can see, we're all on a heroine's quest to achieve our vision of success, okay? And when we achieve that, we really have attained something great. Now, we don't just do this one time in life. I wish it was very neat and pat that you went on one journey, yay, you won, and then you got to go back to the castle. It's not like that. Actually, it usually repeats over and over. We're in this quest constantly. But I believe it's our duty to heed that call to adventure, to go out there and to face these dragons and to bring back the boon or the prize. So what's your vision of success? Well, I can't tell you what that is, but I can tell you to heed the call to adventure, to go out there, to find out what your vision of success is, to clarify it, and to work tirelessly to achieve it. Also, to see the trials that you encounter along the way as dragons that you have to slay. Because when you do, you'll see your life as a big adventure with a purpose. You'll approach all challenges as if they were dragons to slay. You'll be filled with energy and joy. And lastly, you will experience power and true love for life.